Are you wondering why exactly Mikel Arteta decided to sign Mikel Merino for Arsenal? Watch this video if you're wondering why exactly that was the case and why I believe he is the perfect player for both Mikel Arteta and Arsenal Football Club in our pursuit of ultimately improving our team to win the Premier League and other trophies in what we have to play for in this season. Now, let's start off with what we need out of this transfer window. As we all know, I think it's quite evident to us fans what Mikel Arteta thinks is a different case, but I think it's quite evident to us fans that while we could improve the depth of our squad, we need to improve the left-hand side. We need a striker, we need an inside forward, one of the other, if not both. But leaving that for another video, we need to focus on left back and left sided of central midfield. You look at the season before the one that we're just entering now, or better yet, 2 years ago when we had Zinchenko, Granit Xhaka, we had stability. Now, as you know, whether it's been Tomiyasu and Zinchenko's form or injuries, Declan Rice learning that left eight role and having different partners, we are quite lopsided. We have a lot of stability on the right hand side. That is not the case on the left, in which I hope the signing of Mikel Merino, who can play on the right hand side of central midfield, is probably logical to expect him to be put on the left hand side, together with the return to form of Jurien Timber and the signing of Ricardo Calafiori, is designed at solving that issue, and they will be two consistent pieces to the puzzle. When you look at Calafiori, I know he had a massive injury, but him and Moreno have a near enough perfect injury record. After an injury affected 2020/21 campaign, Mikel Merino has only missed a handful of matches for Real Sociedad over the past 3 seasons. And when you look at it, he's averaged 40 appearances per season across 6 years at Sociedad. Durability. You look through the vast majority of our squad, there's a number of players whose fitness you can't bet on, but you can bet on Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, and probably Mikel Merino and a bunch of others. Having players fit and available is understated and underrated, but it's literally what you need to have. So he's got a near faultless injury record. If him and Calafiori/Timber can stay fit, we've got some decent options on that left-hand side. I do think he provides durability, piggybanking off that point, and will be an ever-present committed person to the cause, our cause being aspiring to win trophies. Then you look at his role in midfield, or better yet, the fact that he's 28. Respectfully to a young Ethan, to a couple of other players in and around our squad, I know Mikel Arteta can teach people how to play different ways of playing, and can somewhat flip everything they know on its head in terms of what they know about football. But at 28, he has gone through that education. He's able to play as an 8 or a 6. He's not learning his trade. We are signing a 28-year-old European Championship winner, a Copa del Rey winner, in which the final games of that Copa del Rey trophy for Sociedad, he actually played with an injury. It's that level of commitment and mentality that we need at this football club, and we can't get enough of those. Not to mention, he's not really known for his time at Borussia Dortmund, where he failed to win over Thomas Tuchel, but he has also won a DFB Pokal, people. So that shows he's got the ambition and the desire, as well as the mentality to win trophies. And that somewhat looks at, you look at the ilk of certain players that have been brought into this club. Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, for example, Jorginho, Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus. They've all won honours prior to signing for this football club. You can never not have enough winners. And hopefully, indirectly, on top of what Mikel Arteta is doing, that helps to create a winning mentality and a burning desire to achieve trophies. Because we all know if Arsenal fail to win a trophy this season, there's going to be a lot of question marks. I would also feel he's very similar to Mikel Arteta. And what I mean by that is he's got the Spanish principles, the technical ability, the guile, everything you would imagine of a Spanish midfielder or Spanish player like Mikel Arteta in his playing days. But you combine that with the English grit. Now, I know, and we'll get onto it, Moreno has spent time in England prior, but focusing on the manager. While he came through the La Masia, he's obviously played, at Arsenal, he's played for a number of clubs. People forget the vast majority of Arteta's time was spent at Everton in the Premier League. And respectfully to Everton, they were one of the lesser sides, so they had to fight and win draws and be tough and be tenacious. It's these kind of principles beyond the obvious of what we know of Mikel Arteta that I think he hasn't gone away from. So naturally, you need to be able to run. Yes, professional footballers need to run. I know, guys, that isn't exciting or any anything innovative in that ilk, but he specializes in winning duels. In fact, last season with Sociedad, he won more of them than any other player across Europe's top 5 leagues. Nobody even got close to his total of 326. Now, because Arsenal are on the front foot a lot of the time, I think that will obviously naturally decrease. But in terms of the principles, you will see that when he signs for us. He won more duels than any other player once again in Europe's top 5 leagues last season. You combine that with Declan Rice, and I know Odegaard isn't known for that when you think of him, but we now have an all-action trio in midfield, not to mention the options for at least a year. With Jorginho and Thomas Partey. He also ranked first in La Liga for tackles in the opposition third, which again, we're on the front foot a lot. When we lose the ball, we want to win it back as quick as possible. He can obviously help with that. And it's clear that he's earned a reputation for being both a monster in the air, defense, and in attack. He stands at 6'2", so it continues the theme of Arsenal targeting physically imposing players. You look at Calafiori, Declan Rice, Kai Havertz. Obviously, we've got a couple of players already that are quite tall. This has obviously helped us and could make us even more of a threat, people. You know, when you look at the fact that he boasts his formidable aerial strength, technical ability, and has a knack for stealing possession and winning it back, and is comfortable on the ball, this is a match made in heaven. No player in La Liga last season recorded more than his 124 flick-ons on the topic of headers. He's good in defensive duels, and we all know his extra time header for Spain in the quarterfinals against Germany at the recent Euros is what, you know, illustrates such, people. He's a quality player. When you look at his aerial wins, he actually won more than Van Dijk and Pinnock in the same case study. He won more per 90 at the time than Benjamin White, Saliba, and Gabriel. His aerial play, obviously, or his aerial game is valuable both in the attacking and defensive thirds, and also with set pieces, which can obviously evidently help us make a difference. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, you look at the Wolves game, for example, of Kai Havertz's goal, if he chips in with a couple of those kind of goals across the season, people. He's someone that's got fantastic and tremendous personality in football terms. What you see from him is what he seems to have always been. He's got a very active left foot. He's adaptable in different game states and situations. He can drive and beat his man. He can pass a ball. He's strong in the air, and he knows when to arrive in the box. As I said, he's 28. He's competent at his role. I'm sure Mikel Arteta will craft him in certain aspects, but he's fairly all-rounded and able to contribute in all phases. And again, speaking of all phases, 2 seasons ago, he got a career best of 9 assists in La Liga, which only at the time did Griezmann have more. So where you look at Declan Rice having his best goal scoring season, Mikel Merino's probably got more to offer in terms of goals and assists, although I don't expect him to ever, you know, be a Frank Lampard in that ilk, people, if we're really honest with you. You know, when you look at it as well, beyond the obvious as to why you would be enticed by signing for Arsenal Football Club and what Mikel Arteta has had to say about him, he's not really known for his time in England. And I'm sure at 28 years of age, with the project, with what Arteta has told you of what he can do individually and collectively for you, with what we've become, I think beyond the obvious, selfishly, another point as to why he would want to sign for this football club is to, you know, at 28, put a bit of respect on his name during the time he spent at Newcastle, in which he made 24 appearances, 25 in the league, and unfortunately was labelled a flop. I do believe ultimately him, Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, Jorginho, and indirectly Odegaard is the perfect blend. I don't see him as a like-for-like Xhaka replacement, but I feel that void will be filled, and he'd allow, you know, would be allowed to see a long-term partnership develop between him and Declan Rice, indirectly Mikel Merino, and obviously Calafiori or Timber, who is at left back, and Trossard and Martinelli will thrive for that. Now, Trossard found a way to thrive last season, regardless of these talking points. Martinelli, off his own back, will have to do the same. But stability, there's no coincidence. Martinelli had his best goal-scoring seasons for this football club with an ever-present Granit Xhaka and Zinchenko behind him, and those partnerships that were developing. Again, he will replace the Granit Xhaka kind of void, but he's not like for like in that regards. Naturally, people, he's going to be a bit more physical and less technical than a Granit Xhaka. I think when you look at his relative low passing accuracy of 77% at Sociedad, that can somewhat be explained in some stages, people, by his inclination to take risks with his distribution. Now, that is something Mikel Arteta is a bit of a double-edged sword, because from the way we play, you can see ball retention and not forcing the issue is I also feel when you look at the graph, I think no two teams are alike. But when you look at how Sociedad play and the systems and the intricacies around that, I think there's a lot of transferables that you see mimicked in Mikel Arteta's football and vice versa at Sociedad. So while you do need to give a player in time to be able to adapt individually and collectively to the teammates and what Mikel Arteta wants from him, I do think, in theory, beyond what we've been speaking about, evidently, I think it's all set up for him to seamlessly adapt and survive and thrive at Arsenal from the jump, essentially, if I'm completely honest. So for me, I think this is a good sign. And if I'm brutally honest, I think he's got a lot of competencies that can bring a lot to the table for Arsenal Football Club. Most importantly, he knows his role. He'll provide some stability on the left-hand side, and we'll see some consistency with who we deploy out wide and on that side, and allow relationships to build with Ricardo Calafiori or Timber, with Mikel Merino, and indirectly with Gabriel Martinelli, Leandro Trossard, or I think what all of us Arsenal fans hope for, another wide option. I understand why people would sit there and say this isn't a signing that's seen as a level and curtain raiser, but for me, you look at the numerous names that I've said that Liverpool have signed: Wijnaldum, Trent coming from the academy, Robertson at the time of him signing, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Firmino. None of those players, in hindsight, everybody loved them at Liverpool. Football fans loved them, but nobody was singing from the rooftops. You buy competently and you have a good squad, and suddenly, the world's your oyster, which it could be such for Arsenal Football Club. Might not necessarily raise the ceiling, but will raise the floor. And I think in times that come, he will show his quality. And I get it. When we've signed Declan Rice and blockbuster signings, everybody wants a shiny new toy. But stability, improving what we've got, competencies, these are things that allow you to win a title that are not seen as sexy, in my humble opinion. So I'm a big fan of the Mikel Merino signing. Yes, it doesn't make me think, wow, we're closer to Manchester City, especially as they've brought Gundogan back. But I look at Liverpool, at the point of the players that Liverpool signed, or players that became key players at Liverpool to help them win a Prem with the champs, apart from Alisson and Van Dijk, who were brought in for big money. And even with Van Dijk, there was still a lot of question marks. I know someone like Origi wasn't a guy like that for Liverpool, but he was a smart addition that became a cult-like figure. Wijnaldum was okay at Newcastle. There was question marks whether he could make the step up. The same goes for Mane. Salah was labelled as a Chelsea flop. Firmino was all right, but wasn't held in high regards. Trent came from the academy. Robertson came from relegated Hull. Now, again, buy the players correctly and buy competent players, suddenly you have a great squad. And I do expect Mikel Merino to become the first choice man in midfield next to Declan Rice, but as we look to shift the burden away from Thomas Partey. And unfortunately, where Thomas Partey is concerned, Mikel Merino is ever present and has a lot of fitness. So maybe indirectly you'll see in more ever present Partey, but I think if not before too long, Merino will become one of the first names on the team sheet. I'm happy with the signing because I think he's a good player. Now it's just down to him to show his qualities, if I'm completely honest. On that though, people, hopefully I've provided some sort of quality. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.
Always just like,